Before we go for the day, I wanted to share why did I, your lovely host here, choose love? And why did I choose to do what I do? It's Jesus's time. Okay, so my lovely Jesus is why I got to choose love. He is somebody who was not welcomed. Well, he was welcomed with mistrust, disbelief, fear, non acceptance. And he was also, though, a person who stood in restorative embodiment. And so he gave us example of what integration of the brain looks like. When I learned about integration of the brain from Daniel Siegel, Attachment and Trauma Informed, I am, and I continue since I support people on personal development. But remember, I'm also a 5D mystic, okay? So as a mystic with clairs, I'm not a person who's welcomed by all of the faith. I am also a person who's a Reiki master. And again, there are those who are of theologian schools who want to make our energy seem as if it's not part of the Holy Spirit of energy. So again, I try not to use too many of those words to respect different institutions, but the reality is any smart person knows sciences and spirituality comes together. Stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. Smart people use their right and their left. So this is the left, the chit chatter. The right is where your emotional stuff comes up, and you will be a window welcome. So today we talked about how a self-empowered woman, 5D mystic, will not be surprised or shocked if a man lies to us, gives up on their own self and life, and that they betray us. Because it's straightforward when you meet people who don't want to keep on moving forward. And that's because, that's something personal. So I learned it from Jesus that some people suffer. And so it wasn't something hard to understand. But I also learned from God that life is a gift and not to take it away. And I completely agree that life is a gift. And so I love to meet those who choose self help and therapy, and therefore they choose to bring their inner child, adult, to life. So I didn't lose my inner child, which is why you see me. I got to choose love because I have secure attachment from home, and I got a twin. So I'm always a person. I've always been a person who's known spirituality as a lifestyle. Besides being in spirituality, thank you again to Jesus, because he's my spirituality go-to. That I also have yoga and Sadhguru, that is at this point is great too. Okay, so we self-empowered women, we're not confused by our emotions, and in this case, Jesus taught me that love is all inclusive, that love is to see you, that love is to hear you, and that love is to share with you the time that we have from the heart. And it's an open heart, not a closed off heart. Okay, so you bring your ideas to life when you know that this and that are true because you have a flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, and stable brain. So you don't have cognitive dissonance, biases that have you arguing with people, political, religious, none of it. Nope. You're not acting as if magic works through you. You are the magic. And that's because there are no obstacles, because you get to be in your prefrontal cortex, which is what anybody who does self-help and personal development, and that's emotional awareness, accountability, self-regulation, or good therapy, getting out of those personality disorders, coming into the whole self, getting out of childhood trauma, coming into the whole self, and having healthy self-worth, women, men, and days. Okay, so I'm not shocked when people choose human suffering because I've seen it. We see it. We see people who justify and actually take a side. They don't have room for understanding that there are options. So while you can be, of course, a person who didn't have the luck that I did, okay, I'm going to share it that way. You still have a conscious choice that you can make to live inside here a life that moves you into a brain that will lead you to inner and outer well-being. So on that, I have compassion, I have love. I do not have let me cry you a river when you are choosing to disregard the good information that is for free online. I'm not kidding right now. There's Patrick Teahan, Dr. Daniel Fox, even just those two channels alone, they would help any person that sees my maladaptive child behavior, or I have some stuff going on in here. I'm going to figure it out what I've noticed is people wear the mantles of mental health, the mantles of yoga, the mantles of spirituality, which are spiritual bypassers. Okay, so I chose love thanks to Jesus. And again, I want to share a story because, see, this is where it was before I had my clairs, before I became an Akashic record reader or Reiki master, before embodying completely the enlightenment soul age group and being a 5D mystic. So 5D is Christ consciousness. And that's one of the things that I was like, wow, that makes sense because Jesus taught me to forgive, to love. So he taught me about human suffering. And he taught me how to walk a walk and talk a talk. And God taught me how to stay humble, which is very straightforward. So staying humble means that I can understand that you have a different way that you feel emotions in life, which is why I keep my mouth shut whenever somebody is choosing to give up on life or on their self, and or both, really, because the minute you give up on your inner child, you've given up on yourself and you've given up on life, because you're going to be a ball in a chain and a low energy. But long story short, the story is I had a beautiful person that I was chit-chatting about, and we both found ourselves talking about how we support people. And I was already getting ready to start my online entrepreneurship career, if I remember correctly, with IHP. I don't remember the year anymore. If not, it was soon after college or getting ready to go to college. So he and I are talking about how to support people and help people. And I said, well, Jesus tells us how we can. And he says, yes, but he didn't leave us the key. And I said, yes, he did. The key is your heart. It's the people. I said the key is that a person chooses love. That's the key. But they have to have an option. And love and fear are those options. So when we have humans suffering love, they have given up on their inner child. They're not an official adult. They're a maladaptive child. And that's thanks to attachment and trauma researchers that I can bring to you why people don't want to be their self. So my second aha moment was with Bessel van der Kolk, because the key and opening one's own heart is Jesus again, where he shares. Only you can choose to walk a ladder, to walk a life, and to be a person. And I saw many teenagers at my age say no to Jesus' love and no to God, and they questioned mine. They even compared me, my faith, to fear and said, you only believe because of being afraid of death, which is our human secondary consciousness. And I said, no, I don't like the idea of death. I still don't. I'm not afraid of it. I don't want it. That's it. Two different things. And I stay away from physically endangering people. That's it. If you're emotionally anything, you're not going to be a problem, because I know how to differentiate my nervous system immediately, because I am learning more that physical mastery is this. Okay, so 5D Mystics in the Enlightenment Soul Age group. If you want more, come on over for the light body, rainbow body in a different way, not the 4D mantles way, which is really, they're not going to take you anywhere. Okay, back to us. So the second key, Bessel van der Kolk, I had noticed the 4D completely off with everything they keep on saying to this day. We have a collective, so all information is valuable, beautiful, important. A Mahasamadhi Samadhi brain is what you see here. I'm an independent thinker because I'm an integrated brain. So when you're speaking to me, I got a 3-year-old, no emotion going on because I learned how to be polite, and I'm just hearing you. And that's it. You haven't wavered me anywhere. I'm listening to you, which is why people think that I'm not hearing them. I say I don't need to believe what you're telling me or think the way you're thinking to be hearing you. Hearing you means that I heard what you said. I understood your explanation. I'm respecting and accepting it. I've seen who you are. That's it. That's all. If you want me to say yes to it, no, I don't know. Why? So people who want you to agree with them, they don't know how to be differentiated selves in link, which is something called you don't know how to be healthy self-worth. Because I don't need to think and feel the way you do. You just shared with me something. Aren't you just sharing to enjoy life with me in time? If you need me to be on your side, you're not actually just sharing. You're doing something different. So put that aside. Bessel van der Kolk, when I read his Body Keeps the Score, the first half of it, that's when I was like, okay, now I know why people don't want to be their self. Because the minute that you have any, I want to be seen, to be soothed, to be safe, to be secure. So any uncertainty, insecurity, you look outside yourself for confirmation if you're doing it right or not. And then I learned a whole bunch more of things with attachment trauma. So today I know when people give up on their self, they're giving up on their inner child. and they're giving up on doing emotional work. That's all this is. For the ones who could easily do it, I have no equation except for one. It's very easy. So I learned, let's talk about another learning lesson about just how hard life is for some people because somebody explained it to me. And I remember when I got this news, because until that moment I was very much saying, it's not right what you're doing. So we all have the black and white thinking as teenagers. Then we grow out of it because our brain develops fully to have those executive decision making functions. And then also what happens is you grow and begin to experience life. So while people say, well, you've changed, Maria, I love when people come around and say that to me because that's how people see a person. When instead you are a consistent, expanding piece of consciousness, a self of your own. Thank you, Daniel Siegel. You're a verb. You go through consistent expansion. I don't call it change because I'm the consistent, same energetic imprint, and I feel more of me than I've ever felt, and you're not the one to define me. I am. But if I have to argue with you about it, I won't do it. I will allow you to tell me and paint me a picture of me because I don't really give two shits about the fact that you're being insulting in this moment and you're a 3-year-old, and this is the whole point. I learned how to just nod my head and listen. I don't have any plans on trying to prove me to you. You just did something disrespectful, which is tell me that you're telling me how I should think and feel about who I am. And really, I just, yeah, I'm going to put that to the side. I don't try because every time I say I haven't changed, always people will say something. They literally and actively, people always speak for others. But I also know in my head that's normal. We're a herd, so we're exchanging notes together. There's no reason to get huffy puffy, 3-year-old Maria. It's okay. You can still be yourself. So that's the part where Daniel Siegel shares our 0-1-year-old, our 3 to 7, our 11, 12-year-old, our 14, 15, 16, all our child parts, our inner child. That's why I'm an inner child adult. Stay with us. So I still learn how not to huff and puff when another 3-year-old wants to come in and tell me who Maria is. And you can ask my mom, my twin, my younger sister, any of my friends how stubborn I am about this stuff. And so that's the fun part. Okay, so choosing love, easy for me because I had Jesus and I had a lovely, and I still do, lovely secure attachment body. This is why we don't have saga with our twin flames. We won't cry a river for a man or woman or they who chooses to give up on themselves. And I will not be taking any, what is it called? So the people that I am still working to learn how to be in a neutrality with are the imbalanced feminines who justify. They justify people who give up on life. I will not be able to do that. I will be able to accept and understand that I, Maria, your host, does not acknowledge, no, I don't know physically human suffering. I got explained what it is required for you to be in human suffering. It's the usage of your brain in the temporal junction. I don't ruminate. I have reflectiveness. I like to sit in silence in my brain since I was a kid. Leave me alone. I'm thinking right now. My brain is soft. My feelings are soft. In fact, this is why I don't have a window of tolerance for my emotions. I have a window of welcome. And contemplating is my favorite. Oh, see, I do love content creation. It's the most favorite thing to do. So the inner growth mindset, it came with research, but also I realized once I was finished with the courses, like, I've been doing it. And then I said, well, duh, you can't create something that you weren't doing in the first place. And I was happy that I had finished it right around the time that I learned how to implement the neutrality and duality that the advanced place talks about. As I was saying to myself, otherwise, what kind of a teacher, although that's not necessarily the only word. I don't like to use words like that. I like for you to say, Maria, I'm a fan, I'm a supporter of you, being yourself, you're beautiful. And I'm here to say it's easy for some of us. For those who it's hard, we're here to help them. But for those who give up, we're not going to judge them. We're not going to criticize them. We're not going to cry a river for them either. And in fact, this is, again, the one, I have a bias. It's called life is a gift. I was taught by a person who, in fact, the minute they shared with me this information, they also scared the shits out of me. I'll never forget that. And then I learned a lot more. And here's my lovely T1 out of my T3s. For my regular viewers and listeners, I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm consciously choosing to abbreviate terms. And I didn't find it funny. I just realized that I was not going to be able to speak about very important things, and I was not happy at all. But I understood what I was being shown and shared, which was to be flexible in regards to those who do not know. No, they choose not to do emotional lifting. They consciously choose not to open up to people that they choose to engage in with life, and they choose to also not consciously be anywhere in the left mode thinking, wow, I'm creating potentially a concern. So this is where Stephen Porges explains when people are in their biologically rudeness, what happens. They have no room for empathy for another person. They're not trying to be cold and not, notice. They have non-bilateral integration. But in years and time, you will grow to become familiar with each other's thoughts and emotions in an effort to support emotionally and mentally, because that's what life is when you're sharing it. On the other hand, when you are not choosing to do open heart and emotional lifting, and you're not choosing, in fact, expansion of consciousness, what happens is people become a pattern of themselves. And so people who are patterns are we're going to put them in the human suffering love group, 3D, 4D, because they don't tend to their inner child. They use the neuroplasticity agent with the same imagination. Imagination is the neuroplasticity agent with the same cycle. And that's their inner critic and outer critic. And they will do the drinking, drugging, fucking, or whatever reality and story they are. And they do a loop. So you'll notice when you're meeting people who are not an inner child adult, but they're a maladaptive child, they're dysregulated, dysfunctional. They will have love dependent, manipulative, desperate, controlling, angry. The love avoidance will close themselves away and just catastrophize. The other ones in grandiose, they will think they're better than others. So it makes me think of Pinocchio with the ears, Cusco, the squirrel from Cusco land. Makes me think of Diego's pack, the ones of his that he left, thank goodness. Makes me think of even Sid's family. The Sid's family, they leave him behind. That's just not nice. And Ursula, spiritual bypassers on Elsa's journey, the superhero capes where they never get to the end. So they may use the word Jesus, Christ consciousness, love, as long as you're treating people and yourself certain ways, and you're not noticing if you're enjoying more. But anyways, that's for side note, because the reality is that's the point. You won't cry a river for people who consistently choose not to be their self, because they will bring to you a repeat of who they've become with a 16-year-old. And so as I got older, that's why I began to say, wait a minute, what am I looking at? As a college student, I wasn't yet aware of people's bad habits. Then I got out of college and I was with these people that I noticed they were doing things, but I was like, I don't know. And now I'm a 44-year-old woman and I still see men and women doing things. So again, it's not going to be shocking when we get betrayed, lied, or people, again, give up on themselves. They choose apathy. And we don't shoo people away either. But we know they haven't chosen love, because you choosing love means that you're going to continue to smile at life. You're going to want to be here. So for me, life is a gift. And that's why, as I was saying, I don't have a compassionate in that moment. I have attachment and trauma information that made me cry when I found out about just how reactive a person's inner child is to securely attached empowered women. I cried a lot because I was like, oh my gosh, all these people who probably don't want hugs from me because their body is screaming bloody murder. It's being reminded of what they didn't get in their first year of life. So it's not funny. But I won't be like, oh, they're okay. Leave them alone for doing something that is not okay. And what I'm talking about is the people who justify the ones who are not getting out of the suffering. And so while I do know there's physical turmoil in certain parts of our world, right? And there's hunger, so there's practical, actual aspects. And that's why we have hands. So what we want to do, instead of using our mouth to waste air, take our hands, because there's 8 billion people out there. The reality is we all could lift hands. I know what I'm doing with my career and what I'm choosing, my 24 hours. but I also know what the rest of the world. So again, my focus is personal development and supporting people to be their self, but I also am an entrepreneur. In fact, actually, I found one group, a nonprofit. This was through Sabine. It's a great one. If you want it, let me know. These are successful entrepreneurs who are working to support the ecosystem. So you'll know when you're around people who are in our collective, the 5D. They are doing things. They don't present to you the suffering, whining story. They don't say, let's give up on humanity. They don't say, we mistrust humanity. They don't say, we're only going to choose nature, only spirit. No, they're not doing selective like that. They're saying, okay, all hands on deck, let's lift. And that's where Jesus comes into the mix. He walked with all the people. And what is most interesting is when Sadhguru presents to group, he says, if I asked you to leave your homes right now, you couldn't, because these are all people who had debt or they have debt, I don't know, but banks, all this stuff, right? So I know I couldn't get up and leave either. So he makes a valid point. But then he also said, only 12 people followed Jesus. And I think people don't remember that. Although I do love, there's this comedian, what's his name? I won't mention his name because actually I think it's a controversy with him. This is the part, there's so many controversies that you can't, I want the content to stay online, so I won't mention him, but it's his comedic skit. You can ask me again in private. And he talks about how Christianity won because, we're the ones who set up the calendar. And just today I was reading an article about the different calendar years. So for the Christian or the Gregorian calendar, I forget what it's called, it's 2024. But there's another two calendars and they have a different year. Ours is based on the day right from when Jesus was born. I love Jesus. So I love what he stands for, and it's restorative embodiment, and it's secure attachment, safe haven, secure base. And for me, God is the essence of love and life. I use the word Akash and dark matter, dark energy, so we can respect other institutions. But I chose love easily because I have a family that got me to be here. And I do understand the suffering of people. I won't justify giving up on yourself. Not even once. The only people that will be able to have more understanding, in fact, this is exactly why I am a divine feminine with my own divine masculine, but I have divine masculines. And in one of our episodes today, I believe it was the one, a self empowered 5D mystic woman won't be shocked if a man betrays, he lies, and he gives up on himself in life, because that's the point. I'm not surprised at all when it happens. And I, like a teenager, I simply put, one of my divine masculines began to help me to understand how hard it is. But I only grew more understanding. The attachment and trauma researchers made me 100% clear on it. I will still stand in a ventral vagal state as I hold my left mode shut and I hold my right mode like this. And I contain myself in an effort to not speak and to allow Shiva, because it's none of my business what state of consciousness you want to be in. So I try to do the thing my mom taught me. Who does for themselves, Maria, does for three. Now remember what the feminine is, which is why I brought to you that rabbi. Because see, I know why I need my masculines, and I also know that I will not ever be able to say, oh, how wonderful. I do know that when people suffer, that it's sad. That part, of course, I know, and I'm sorry for that. But I know that there's therapists out there that can help every single one of them. So I know there's a solution, and that it's not a problem because nobody's broken. Nobody needs fixing. The DID lady is a perfect story. She healed with Daniel, her therapist at the time, in 6-7 years it took for those consciousness and consciousness barriers and memory barriers to come down, and for her to then be able and have all of her child parts with the one self, or however it was, but all those different parts alters. And then I don't know how much longer she stayed in therapy, but now she's a therapist and she's healed and she's writing a book. And she did not have an upbringing like mine, and she's here with us talking about life. So at the end of the day, the masculine. Why did I laugh when this rabbi says the masculines that they are open to infinite potential? Because if you're open to infinite potential, where are you? This is why. Because as a feminine, I want to see you bring it on. Come on, do shit, masculine. So this is what happens. I begin to get upset because I don't see the willingness as the emotional stuff that's coming up is not being handled by the left mode of a person's, okay? And that's where we'll just leave it alone. But I wanted to try and talk about, so the woman we nurture. Painful to start something new. No, it's painful to know that life will not support its own self to breathe and that there's good therapists out there. When I see the imbalanced feminines, I will know who they are. When I see masculines, I know who they are because they are able to share with me. You don't use your temporal junction, so you don't know human suffering, so you can't speak of what it is like to get through it. And I will say, yes, I will not be able to speak. But what I do know is there's a way out of it because every therapist that I've ever learned from has the capacity to get a person out of hell from here. And so I wonder, do we really need to be, again, supporting people who are not getting themselves out of what is misery and suffering? And so, human love narrative is over here. Human suffering love narrative, we will leave them alone to their own life because that is with respect and love. And, again, I chose very easily how to appreciate the gift that was given to me. And I know how to be understanding of those who tell me it's too hard. I also know where that word doesn't suffice for me. But again, I have a good window of welcome for emotions. I had a good childhood. I have a good growing up. So when people say, yeah, you got lucky, I say, yep, I got lucky. I chose love. Simple. And I choose life. And I choose to support people who want to do more grown up relationships. Because you know what I also know? The ones who are healing, they want to be with people who know healthy self worth. Because guess what? The other ones are. Oh, they're not going to bring to them healthy self worth. So we're going to be here for the ones who get that shit together and they want to live life and they want to be their inner child adult. It's the most fun thing. And again, I always surround all of so the human suffering love narrative, they're surrounding by therapists as a 5D mystic. And then we have the evil scale of Michael Stone. They're all surrounded by therapists too. All the 4D, 3D, everyone's surrounded by therapists. That's what I've decided. And they're all near a volcano, all organized. I'm thinking of it right now. I have a good divine masculine. He helped me to focus on that. That way I can use my power. Power right now, all of them surrounded by good therapists so that they can have a choice to heal every single one of those. I really hope that. This is where I want an integrated brain for every person because that's the inner well being. I want secure attachment for the world. Thank you, Daniel Siegel, for that comparison. And as Patrick Tiahan points out, toxic families silence each other. So I want those who want to talk. And that's what we get to bring is emotionally mature people that choose love. Whether you love Jesus or not, come on board. We're attachment trauma informed over here, and we don't make excuses. So you can't come whining to us. You can only come if you want to do the work, okay? And that's for seriousness. Oh, and don't bring me you're a key of anything. No, nobody's a key here. I've heard the key story. Oh yeah, we'll do another episode on that one. But 5D mystics. It means you know you're a human being body. You're not a special key. I'm not a special key, and if anything, we can play together a nice tune. And please be kind and compassionate. And like, subscribe, share the channel if you enjoyed. Again, this is Voices, Perspectives, Inner Growth, Being Yourself. It's a pleasure to have you all here, and I do wish every single person the capacity to be their inner child. And I'm going to start crying, so I'm going to go.